ghosts and goblins. How you doing?
That's real good.
How was that? I just decided I was going to do that right before it showed my face on the screen.
Yeah, honestly, great decision.
It was a big risk, but it paid off. Here we are. Welcome back to Reely Scared, your horror movie podcast, streaming live every week here on WAT Reel Entertainment. My name is Cleek, not to be confused with Creek, and as always, I'm joined by my man, the Top Goblin. What's that? Say it for me.
Renok Lovebreed.
Wow. Here we are for another edition of the weekly streaming horror movie podcast, and when we are joined by a special guest every single episode to discuss a horror film of their choice, and we've got another great episode for you tonight, kicking off June. It's a WAT Boy summer. I don't know if you knew that, Connor.
I did, and it's been a rainy WAT Boy summer lately.
It's true. It's been dark, cloudy, rainy, little chilly, but you wouldn't know it from in here. I got the summer shandy rocking. Yeah,
and you know what I'm rocking with. I'm rocking with the Natty Light Natter Day pineapple lemonade beer.
We used to call it the war on Natty Light, but it seems like we're
fully embracing Natty Light back into our lives for WAT Boy summer. They came out with this delicious new beer, and you know what? If they want to pass me up on a sponsorship, that's their loss. But I'm not going to miss out on this delicious beer. So that's all I'll say. I won't tell anybody to buy it, but I'm just saying it's delicious.
Okay. All right. A soft endorsement, perhaps. A soft endorsement.
Oh, no, there's no endorsement whatsoever. It's just, this is good.
The ball is softly in their court to make this right. So I'm saying we came to the table, we sat down, we said, we'll hear what you have to say. We're waiting, Natural Light. We're waiting. But we got all WAT Boy summer to go. We got Sugar in the chat. What's going on, buddy? Thanks for hanging out. Love to see ya. Love seeing my favorite ghoul in the chat, sending all the love. The whole gang is here.
Wait, the beard's creepy? Do I need to shave? I'm losing my hair, so I have to compensate somehow.
You got to counteract, right?
Yeah.
I have the same philosophy. It's like I feel like inevitably I'm going to lose all my hair one day. I can kind of hide it when I do this. But like as long as I've got this, like you can look like a hard ass if you go straight bald but get a beard.
Yeah, that's why eventually when this is all gone, this little piece right here, once that's all gone, it's just shaved to the scalp.
Yeah.
It's straight bald. And I'm like 120 pounds, but I'll look tough as shit. I'll look tough as shit being bald with a beard.
Tough as shit. I wouldn't mess with you. And I don't think you look too creepy there. But then again, I like creepy stuff. So, maybe you're preaching to my choir. Maybe not my favorite ghoul. She says shave it all off.
Like just eyebrows. Okay.
Keep the beard. No, she's picking up what you're throwing down. Shave it off, keep the beard. Okay. That's our
the Reely Scared beauty tips.
Yeah, we could do that. We could do like a spinoff, That's a huge subgenre, like tutorial, like skincare, makeup, fashion. We could do hauls. We could do all sorts of cool stuff in the content creation space. I don't know. ASMR. Ooh, excuse me. We could do mukbangs.
Do what?
You know what a mukbang is, brother?
I thought you said something else.
No, that won't be on StreamYard, but we could set up an account somewhere else if we need to. Matt Thomas says get tatted as well. Well, you are tatted. That's true. You could take that off.
I'm a little bit yadded.
You got a little yadded. Real cute. Chris Anthony Lopez right back at you. Real cute. Thursday after Reely Scared. I like to think we're real cute every single time we go live on this channel.
Speaking of cute, we've got a cute guest today.
Got a cute guest. We got a cute chat. Adam Wasso in the chat. What's up, Dilly Todd? It's great to see ya. Thank you, sir. Very talented man. Very good friend of mine. We got a very cute guest. Before we bring him in, I mean, he is touted as like the handsome one of WAT Reel Entertainment, and I'm
the real cute one.
Far be it for me to disagree. Before we bring him in, of course, you got to do all the things podcasts love for you to do. As you see along the bottom of the screen, we do have a Streamlabs, streamlabs.com. Who Are They Podcasts. If you want to support the show, support the channel, You could throw us a couple coins over at our Streamlabs. You don't need to. If you want to get your comment read, you don't need to be in the chat. We're always going to pop up on the show. Changes nothing about how we do the show. But if you want to help us out, support us, we appreciate it. Streamlabs.com/whoarethaepodcasts. I don't even need to be around the bush here. My favorite ghouls helping you out. Connor, what else can they do to support this show?
They can, go over to Apple Podcasts. They can go over to. Can you leave reviews on Spotify?
I don't think you can.
Okay, so you're going to want to go to Apple Podcasts and go ahead and leave us a little cutie. And by cutie, we're not talking about our guest. We're talking about a cute little review. Just a quick, cute review. If you do, we'll go ahead and we'll read it on air.
Although I do like the idea of instead of saying leave a little cutie, we could just start saying leave a little Muhlbach for the show. He's rolling his eyes. He's rolling his eyes backstage. I can see it. And of course, if you're watching us live, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook, go ahead, give us a follow, subscribe, whatever you can do on that platform. Hit the thumbs up or the freaking bell. Hello.
Hello.
Comments, juice up that algorithm, get it real nice and piping hot for us. We love to see it. We love the support on all the platforms, whether it's live or after the fact. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to Really Scared. I think, without further ado, I can't think of anything else. Let's bring his ass in here. I'm excited. I'm excited to have him on the show tonight because
from the tunnels underneath.
Yeah, go on and get the escalator going and unlock the basement door and welcome into your homes and hearts, ladies and gentlemen, the co-founder of WAT Reel Entertainment and my wonderful friend, Nick Muhlbach.
What is up, everybody? I was trying to think of the opposite of my name, but instead I just put us in my name, and
which works. It works.
I just have to say that. Well, I appreciate the cute comments. Thank you. I have to say that this is one of the cutest days of the week. Everybody here on Who Are They Reel Entertainment is cute, and I love you guys, and thank you for bringing me on. I decided to wear my Taco Bell hat for the boys today. That has flowers on it, and it is summertime, so these light button-up shirts are becoming very popular in this household. But very happy to be here, and very happy to talk about us. I had an entire gag planned where this was going to be Gotti, but it isn't.
Oh, shoot. You could let me know. I have my copy of Gotti on DVD not far from here as well, as most people do. They keep that.
We always get a copy of Gotti, too, just to be in the club.
You got to keep that thing on you.
Always got to be ready. Always got to be ready for a little guy.
I'm psyched to have you on here, man. We've almost completed the entire WAT pantheon in this year of guests now. I think at this point, we just got to get Toby Barkwell and Suge to come on at some point.
That's right.
And we'll have completed the entire set. But no, I'm excited to have you on here because obviously, even going back to the old format, Really Scared, and this whole live thing we've been doing on WAT Reel Entertainment, it's like I don't know that we've ever really have we ever had you guest on the show in any capacity?
Yes, once, I think. At least once when we were talking about Daniel Isn't Real.
That's right. Real early. That's
which almost was going to be my pick because I always kind of enjoyed delving back into that movie. But this movie right here kind of explains my love for horror. Love us very much.
I'm excited to get into this. We got some good energy here. I'm just really admiring because I feel like as much as the three of us have been on this channel in the last year and a half or so, and how much we've done, I don't think we've ever just had the three of us on screen.
No,
I know, and it's like a long time coming, all things considered, right?
This group goes way back.
It does. Yeah. And we were, I was going to be like, let's talk about Murmur as our horror film for this week. But like I said, I settled on us by the end of it.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I don't know how deep people know the backstory of this channel and our friendship is, but that, the three of us, we attended the same film program in college, and we our group had got kind of brought together on a whim for an assignment, creating a silent film in class, and it's just crazy, man. You never know those little moments in life how deeply they'll find the rest of it for you. coming together and doing that project and birthing a lifelong friendship.
I was gonna say, and then things got weird, and it like for the best. Obviously, things got weird because if they didn't get weird, this show probably would not exist right now, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's it's so funny to go back and like track the little pieces that get you. You know, when you can see the sum of those parts, it's so funny to go back and figure out what those parts are, and our collective friendship here is been a huge part in this channel and the show, and yeah, truly none of it would exist had we not met the way that we did. And I'm super grateful and very excited to have the three of us on a show for the first time. I can't believe we never just had three of us.
Wonderful. I'm very happy about it. And you know, one of the things that I'm most disappointed about, and this has nothing to do with like what we're doing on the show, is that Snapchat memories did not exist until after we were in our program.
Yeah, because
there are some gems in my Snapchat memory that pop up yearly, obviously. But like before it got even weirder. And I wish that I was able to save like half of the crap that we did back in the day.
You would have a weird raunchy reminder every single day of our time.
A lot of MIDI videos.
A lot of slow-mo, a lot of throwing a baby down, a baby doll, I just say
baby doll
from high places.
That almost got really bad there for a second.
We got in some pretty weird shit back in our film program days. But here we are. And yes, Chris Anthony Lopez is right. We got to do Wrestle Really Scared for Army of the Dead.
Ooh, yeah.
Totally into that. Talk a little zombie, talk a little Dave Bautista. It's the best of both worlds. But yes, we are here to do Really Scared, the three of us, the Murmur Boys, as we've been known, uniting on screen for the first time in a long time. And I'm excited for it. We're talking about Us. We're talking about Jordan Peele's Us. And I got to say, number one, Nick, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it'd be that crazy to say like you're not especially a horror movie guy. Am I right?
I like making horror movies because I like where all of the ideas come from, but I know watching horror, I don't necessarily get into it unless it's that psychological side of things, really. And you know, when you had said earlier on Daniel Isn't Real was something that you guys were going to cover, it was definitely something that was more my speed than a lot of, because there's a lot of classic horror that I need to watch. But then there's also random horror movies that I've seen that I don't really know how to explain, like Mama, but I don't ever want to rewatch that movie ever again.
Mama.
But no, I'm more into the psychological side of horror. So like, because I almost feel like that's its own genre itself.
Absolutely.
But making horror movies is a boatload of fun, no matter how you.
It is fun. We will have to. We always threaten to get back into that world together, and we will get there someday.
That's right.
A lot of good ideas in this trifecta here. And bouncing off of that psychological horror, I agree. I think that it's certainly a subgenre and definitely a different flavor versus something like your traditional slasher or your supernatural paranormal type movie. Although you can definitely blend those together. But I'm super curious because when you said I want to do an episode, I was like, hell yeah, of course. But I would have never really guessed what movie you might pick. And I knew that you liked this movie, but I don't know if I would have ever guessed that this would be the one. And I'd love to hear what kind of the process was for you, where you're like that made this one the one you nailed down as what you wanted to talk about.
Well, first of all, like, and to the point of when you guys had a locon and I was bringing up Brightburn, that's also one that had crossed my brain. Because I really like when you take something horror related and do something different with it, or just take any genre and kind of flip it on its head. Not necessarily what this was for this film, because if you watch Get Out, obviously, which you guys covered with Matt, it was more of that psychological idea. But I fell in love with Us. I don't even know what it was. I just the movie felt so ambiguous the entire time. You know, I didn't entirely know what was happening. I didn't entirely know where things were coming from and what was going on until the ending ties it all together with a perfect bow, in my opinion. I love the idea of a psychological horror film by Chris. Love you. It's this film does so much for me that I enjoy about it. Character pieces really throughout the entire film, kind of a mystery as to how we get there, and a very good payoff.
Yeah, it's such a cool spin on like the home invasion thriller, but like a lot of horror elements thrown into it, which is what I like. Like, you don't see, the home invasion thriller is just so like, it's easy to fall into the cliches of that subgenre, but with this, it does something totally new with it. So that's what I really like about it.
Yeah. This was a strong revisit for me. Key Witness in the chat. Have to check it out later. Yeah, we should say we will be doing like pretty much full spoiler talk on Us. So if you haven't seen it before, I never want to discourage somebody from watching live, but if you haven't seen it before, we will be spoiling it. And it's totally a film that lends itself to going in as blind as possible, 100%.
Absolutely.
So if you're looking to avoid spoilers, I think it's curious that Chris doesn't want spoilers because he's been dodging watching this movie for as long as I've known him.
Yeah,
I like that he's pretending he might watch it someday.
Yeah, we're gonna watch it.
But no, we are going to spoil it. We are going to spoil it. So if you want to dodge that and come back and listen, that's just as well. We appreciate you all the same. I hadn't seen this movie since in the theater. I'd seen it one time. In fact, Nick, I think I saw it with you in the theater. Did we go to a press screening together?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, like I'm always I always remember certain aspects of screenings with you guys, because obviously Matt and I are together for every single one. There's plenty of stories that I can come up with that, but I remember some Spider-Man Homecoming stories from Connor sitting next to people we never wanted to. Yes. And that's also another reason why I picked this film, was seeing it with the important people in your life. We always kind of create a good memory of a movie. And yeah, I'm rambling. Anyways.
Yeah, I think I somehow had forgotten. This happens sometimes where I think back to a movie and I'm like, yeah, that movie's really good. I like it a lot. Mm-hmm. But if I don't revisit for long enough, sometimes I'll finally get back to and go, wait a minute, no, I don't really like this. I love this movie. This thing is visceral. I watched it last night, and like 10 minutes in, I went, oh wait, yeah, this movie's fucking awesome. I somehow forgot just how solid this is. And I know it wasn't as popular as Get Out for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people saw it. It did well. But I know people were a little more conflicted coming out of it than they were Get Out. It was a little more polarizing. I didn't have that problem with it. I didn't have that problem with it when it first came out, and I would say I even less so have it now, because I was totally gripped by this thing watching it a second time. It is so intense and so relentless. Once it really kicks in, you don't get any time to really breathe. Relax.
And I think people were expecting something more like kind of straight, because I mean, Get Out obviously has its hidden meanings below that you kind of have to pick out and kind of digest. But I feel like that one was easier to digest than this one. This one has like so much underneath. It has a lot of hidden meaning.
Yeah.
A lot of like different motifs in it that you kind of have to watch more than once to kind of pick those parts out. And I think people weren't ready for that, but Jordan Peele can do literally anything, and it's going to be good. I'm open to anything he does. He's going to do so much different stuff, and I'm there for it.
And like I remember the movie distinctively being one of those movies that I needed to talk about with somebody by the end of it. Like literally the second. And that's the problem with going to preview screenings, is obviously you can't get onto social media and go, look at what I just saw. But it's like the moment that I walked out of that theater, I wanted to talk about the ending. And obviously we did, because I was with people that I knew. But it was just like the ending was so mesmerizing. And I know that obviously we'll get to it. But I just was it was one of those movies that left me with an excitement to not only see it again, obviously, but talk about it as soon as it ended.
it definitely warrants itself to that. And Get Out was the same too, where it was like you just want to pick apart every detail of it, whether you want to look at it through a more analytical lens and like figure out where those ideas come from and you know where they want to take you, or just from like a admiring the filmmaking and the storytelling of it.
Yeah,
because I think with us, I know one of the critiques was like, okay, Get Out was like laser focused, and like by the time you got out, you're like, I get that one. And this one was maybe a little more broad or a little more ambiguous, or had like a couple of different ideas all living, you know, under the same roof, and that maybe got a little messy for some people. But even if you took the social aspect out of it, not that I think you should, but if you did take it out and you just looked at it completely surface level, it's still such a cool twist on the subgenres that it's inspired by, you know, like you said, home invasion, you know, and it's not often that you see a really good rendition of that. I feel if it feels like it's kind of done. Like the last example I can think of was when we talked about Hosts last year, where it was like, okay, it's got the DNA of that subgenre, but it's doing something really different with it, that, you know, the fallouts and expectations. This merged with something that I think is a really scary concept, which is doppelgangers.
Yeah.
That freaks me the hell out. And even if it didn't have the extra layer that Jordan Peele's always, you know, functioning on whenever he makes these stories, at the end of the day, it's also just a really solid creative horror movie.
Yes. Yeah.
You can enjoy it on either level. And I was just transfixed by this one. I was the same with you, Nick. Like as soon as it started, I was kind of just like eating out of the palm of this movie's hand. I remember when we saw it in the theater, just when the lights went down and you just had this weird ambient noise play as it's like reading out statistics on like liminal underground spaces. I was like, wait, what is going on? Like it was already, I'm like, I don't, why are you telling me this information? You know, like, cause it does lend itself so heavily to not really knowing what you're getting out of it. And it gives you those weird factoids that already, I don't know, but I find unsettling. Just the thought of it.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole entire like tunnel system underneath like the surface, and nobody knows what their purpose is for to this day. And then it just like dives into the movie, and they're just like, all right, already creeped out.
Well, let it be that it's also like it's transfixed over this shot of rabbits, and the greatest. I love this movie's score. Yeah. It is fantastic. I remember when the trailers came out the first time, it used a little bit of that remix of I've Got Five on it, and it was amazing. But that opening track, as the shot is panning out on the rabbits, it already left me with this unsettling feeling of this like children's choir singing just tones the entire time.
Yeah. And it's like Get Out has that same thing where it's got this like original composition that's really haunting and creepy. And Michael Abels is the name of the composer, I guess, also did Get Out. So it's like they've got this team. I'd read that like Steven Spielberg, of all people, convinced Jordan Peele to bring Michael Abels back. And it said like he is your John Williams. What John Williams is to me, this guy is to you. You have like this amazing symbiotic relationship, so you got to bring him back for this movie. And Jordan Peele was like, well, fuck, I guess I got to bring him back for this movie. Right. Spielberg said he's my John Williams. So like, I mean, I think that's a great comparison, because it feels like the score and the composition completely gets what it needs to achieve with the movie. Like they are completely, they're so complementary to each other. It is such a creepy, haunting score. That like, again, you're in the opening titles and you're already uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you mentioned also, the I Got Five on it thing, which, I mean, this is probably one of the best trailers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with the way they did that sort of horror movie remix of that song. They're synonymous. I cannot think of this movie without thinking of that. Yeah. It's that earworm thing. Is like, before I even hear a dialogue or anything, or even think of a scene, I hear that song start playing in my head, and we're jumping all over the place, which is fine. It's what we do on this show. But the way that comes back towards at the very end of the film, like they actually put it in the movie, which you don't see a lot. Usually, that was made just for the trailer. oftentimes things like that are made just for the trailer, not to be in the movie. And I guess as they were wrapping up post-production, that trailer went out, they were like, no, people are going nuts about this song. We got to actually get it in the movie somewhere.
Yeah.
And it feels like such a cool payoff because like that's what you think of when you think of the movie, and it's not in the movie till the very end, and it starts playing and you're like, oh man, now I know this is showtime because they're playing that song. It's like this weird like payoff that you get excited about to hear at the end. It's so smart. So smart how they use that.
It is, for sure.
But yeah, even just the opening, the facts about, and I guess that was something that they also didn't have in the first cut of the film, was that little graphic at the end explaining it. And I think they must have done like a test screener or something, and people were like, wait, what? There's like a basement under America? Everybody lives down there? So like, it must have felt like, okay, we got to give them like a little hint. So they're like, oh yeah. You mentioned that at the start of the movie. I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. And that's what I know. I know a lot of people got hung up on this with like the very literal stuff. That's what I remember people being like, oh, where'd they get all those scissors? Like, don't worry about that.
Yeah. I have had that argument with many people as to like, how did everything like that happen down there? I mean, how did it take this long for somebody to finally break the mold? And we'll get into why I say that.
I mean, obviously, like, we get how that happened. And,
right.
I mean, the scissors, I mean, when we'll get to it, but when the tethered come up, she talks about how she would get presents for Christmas and they were sharp and cold and would cut her fingers. Obviously, talking about the scissors. Like, obviously, they were just down there. Who cares? You don't need to know how the scissors got down there. Literally not important.
It basically is like, it's basically magic, right? Whatever. It's fucking like, I had the same for Get Out. It was like, I think you can obviously get the sense, and maybe this frustrates some people, but you get the sense that Jordan Peele's not so interested in the literal. It's like, I mean, I don't know how the man's mind works, but having watched 2 of his films, what I feel like I am getting a sense of is like the concept comes first. Like Get Out first, It was like, let's look at the way that like supposed allyship and like white liberalism can come all the way back around and turn into its own, brand of discrimination and microaggression. Like, okay, how do I take that idea and then, work outwards into a horror film? And you come out with this very high concept thing. And it's like, we said in Get Out, it was like, okay, there is no surgery in which put this person's brain in this person's brain and another. It doesn't exist. The science doesn't exist, but you just got to take it. You got to leave it at the door and just go, well, that works in this universe, in this movie.
Yeah.
That works here.
We use movies to escape reality, and this is a perfect example of a reality I don't want to be in, but it's still freaking like, it's still a movie that we use to enjoy ourselves, not, completely ripped to shreds in that regard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the same thing here. It's like, and we'll talk about some of the themes and ideas that I think, create this movie and put the story together. But it's like, he starts off with this idea of like conflicting class issues and goes, okay, how do I translate that into a horror film? What if somebody living at someone else's expense? Okay, what if I like literally made a double of that person that was whose expense you were living at or of, and things like the underground spaces and their jumpsuits and the scissors, and you can't get into the science of it because no, that wouldn't work in the real world. But that's not the world we're living in. We're living in the allegorical world that he's creating to tell a compelling horror story. You gotta leave that at the door sometimes. And some people don't like that. They want to do cinema sins and this doesn't check out, blah 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 blah. Maybe that's different strokes for different folks. But for me, I'm like 100% on board because he's going to show me some shit I've never seen or thought about before.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you just kind of let go and give yourself to the movie and go along for the ride. And fuck, this is an awesome ride.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we talked about this with Ari Aster. I think the same is true for Jordan Peele. Is like nothing happens in his movie by mistake.
Yeah,
everything is intention. Wardrobe to set design to props to extra, like everything is playing into the vision that he's got, and nothing is like, well, we need a guy stand over there, get that guy, put him over. Like he shows up to set every day with, like, this is what we're going to film, and this is how it's going to turn out, all the way down to like the first shot, like all the movies on the shelves or on the TV. It's like all of those are intentional, all of those are referential to something else. It's like I'm almost envious that somebody's brain works that hyper specific, because I'm like, that is truly the mind of like it's maybe it sounds like hyperbole, but to me it really is like a genius to it.
Yeah,
admirable.
Absolutely. And like that opening scene where we're seeing that commercial for the first time, everybody together, and we kind of get that backstory, and I will say the cinematography in this film is absolutely, and not to get into all the film concept-y parts of this, but like the cinematography in this film is absolutely gorgeous. There's a million different shots that I can recount, and the colors of the carnival scene are literally ones that I go back to all the time. I'm a huge fan of finding those colors scheme posts on Instagram where it like shows all the different colors that are in a shot of a film. Do I understand how the hell that works or what it means? No, but I love to see it. I remember Us being one of those films that I just completely like saved and reposted everywhere because I just loved how brilliant everything, even just technically, was.
Speaking of the boardwalk scene, this is a weird like crossover to our previous episode. There's a line where they're talking about a movie being shot, because this is taking place in Santa Cruz, and there's a line where the mom says there's a movie being shot over by the carousel. She goes see if they need extras. That movie, of course, is Lost Boys. Which was shot on the boardwalk of Santa Cruz. So just a weird like crossover.
That's awesome. Yeah, 1986, the murder capital of the world, Santa Cruz. and it's largely the same. I mean, they both are shot on location on that pier. Yeah, Lost Boys. So like a lot of the back and the set and things is the same, because they haven't really updated that stuff. So like they didn't really need to do much, is my understanding, when they're filming a scene that's supposed to be in the 80s. They like really didn't have to change anything outside of people's wardrobe just to make it look authentic. The only thing they really had to add was whatever was the shaman's journey or whatever it is on the beach, the House of Mirrors. That was something they had to build, which I also love that it changes when they flip back to modern day, and now it's something about a wizard from what I remember. Just show how the cultural shift, because it's like, you can't have a native shaman House of Mirrors on the beach. Come on, get updated. Carnies, fucking offensive. I love it. It's just a nice little. Again, it's just like everything has this deliberate touch to it. Where like he thought of that. He didn't say like, oh yeah, it's the House of Mirrors, it's the same one. He thought of like, no, at some point that probably would change between 1986 and 2019 or whichever 2018. So like there's just this deliberation in everything that he does. I hadn't put that Lost Boys connection together until I watched it, and I was like, oh, what a weird coincidence. We just talked about that with George. Right off the bat, this movie gets so scary in that House of Mirrors scene.
Yes.
The idea of, I don't know why I am so particularly freaked out by the idea of doppelgangers, and like I don't know what it is in my life or like what I've seen or read that makes that so scary to me, but the idea of a double, living in the same world as you, and just by happens, it feels so dreamy and nightmarish when she's in the Hall of Mirrors. Especially as they cut back to it, and they like the mystery of it too, where it's like she goes down there. We see what happens to some extent, and then like her parents are trying to figure out, and she like doesn't talk, and it's like this weird mystery of what truly happened to her in there. And like, did you guys, when you first saw this movie, did you kind of get ahead of it and figure it out before it revealed things to you, or were you catching up the whole time?
I was catching up the whole time. It's like there's so much thrown at you in every scene where you're like trying to unpack that. You're not worrying about like trying to decipher what happened in the scene before. So you're just constantly trying to unpack it, and then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, like you forgot about this, and this is what happened.
It felt like I should have known what was coming the entire time.
Yeah.
Right? Like
When
the moment
it
that it happens,
happens-
I just go, oh, well
When it happens, you're like, God, I'm an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
how did I not see it? But then
I
you
literally
like,
walked out of that film going, I should have known what was going on the entire time, and I didn't.
But that's what's genius about this movie, because
yes.
it does such a good job of like not giving that away. Like it gives you so much to think about, where you're not thinking about that because it's such a small moment in the beginning. Like,
yeah,
it's frames it as like she just sees something so horrific and it looks like a double of her, and then it cuts to modern times. It's just so like you're not thinking about it for the rest of the movie. You're just like, she saw this double.
Yeah. And I was the same way. I felt like I didn't even anticipate a twist or a reveal really even being in the the plot of the film. So when we get there, I do remember being just like totally floored by it. I felt like a dummy. I was like, how did I not see this?
Yes, yeah. That's exactly how I felt.
And the best part about movies like that, if executed well, if they truly surprise you when you go back and watch them again, it's like you catch all the little clues that at the first watch would never stick out to you really. If they're smart about it, they're at least subtle enough that they're not super obvious. And then you watch it again, and you're like, oh yeah, I can see all the different things that are tracking what is actually happening here. I love movies that accomplish that. A lot of times the plot twist and all that like can be really poorly executed, but I think it's great in here. And I just love, again, going not to go back to it, but all the little things, the little details that get put in every frame that are there for a reason, like all the symbology, the reoccurring 11s all throughout the film, all the way to the start with the homeless man holding the Jeremiah 11:11 Bible verse, which I pulled up here to read it. We're gonna read the Bible, kids. Get a chair, get your Bible, which is therefore this is what the Lord says: I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Although they cry out to me, I will not listen to them. Which like seems pretty poignant to the core of the film. But also I feel like even just on that surface level, it's like, what is an 11? It's these two identical lines standing next to each other. I love the black flag t-shirts. You get one in the flashback and you get one in the modern day too. Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss, a cool punk kid who wears a black flag shirt to the beach, but it's like, what's the black flag logo? It's 4 lines standing next to each other. So or like it's 11:11 on the clock, or like when he's watching baseball, it's a tie game, 11-11. Like it's just so.
And one of the teams is the Twins.
The Twins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing is just because he made it up. It's like everything is working towards the same vision and story. And it's for some. There's an execution in that where it's like if it was too obvious, you'd be like, oh my God, this is so obnoxious, like so self-important, and so referential. But like, no, it's not over the top. And when you notice it, you feel like, yeah, I caught it. Like you feel a little clever when you catch it. You're like, I see what's going on here. I love it. And coming back into the modern day, I love this family. I love the dynamic that they have. We got to talk about Lupita.
Yeah,
I thought she deserved an Oscar nomination.
Yeah, a nomination at least. She was so good. She had to play 2 different characters, and like she's just so remarkable in this movie, playing both parts,
destroying her vocal cords as she's talking.
Incredible. I mean, we talk about horror performances sometimes where it's like, how did this not get nominated? Like Toni Collette, Hereditary, it's an obvious one that comes up a lot. And, we all know, like, it's not the Oscars' prerogative to really acknowledge horror films. And it is what it is. It's like, that's not their thing. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of old folks nominating the films that they like. So, but it really does feel inconceivable that this doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Not 2 characters that are so far at opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of what that performance is calling for from her. And you really, even though it is her and it is her doppelganger, the performances are so different that it really is easy as an audience member to kind of forget that you're looking at 2 Lupita Nyong'os.
Yeah.
they're so the performances are so different. You just kind of forget that there's a special effect here. It's like, yeah, these are two actors in the same room who have playing off each other and have this great chemistry. It's crazy, you know, and you know, not for nothing, like pretty famous actor too. So like that I could completely just kind of get lost in the movie and not and stop looking at the filmmaking of it and just get wrapped up in what they're doing is, I mean, that has so much to do with her performance, and it just feels like, you know, highway robbery that this did not get at least that nomination. I mean, come on, who the fuck was nominated this year? I gotta pull it up, like, so we can find somebody that need to be.
Oh, I'm sure we could. Every year we can.
You could give her lead and support for this same movie.
Right, exactly. Can you for that? Like that's unbelievable.
I think you could.
And
Don't call me a nerd, George. Don't get cocky now that you're back in the chat. Don't get cocky. Be our heckler again. Who was high? Peele? Jordan Peele? Probably. I don't know. Worked out for him.
And Winston Duke is incredible.
Yes.
Giving us incredible one-liners.
Giving us the dad performances of all dads.
It's just so cool that, like, you're getting, like, one-liners in a horror movie again. Just, you want to get crazy? We'll get crazy. Like, every time that scene, like, that was also in the trailer. And I was like, I hope this is in the movie. And then it comes on and you're like, oh, shit. Like, he's just like, with the bat in his hand, you want to get crazy? We'll get crazy. Like, I just love that. Like, he's so good at this, playing the just ultimate dad.
Right. Like, I watched this and I'm like, this is another just completely different performance I didn't think that I would get out of this film. Because a lot of the talents are, like, not out of their element, but are playing these just different roles that I would have never expected.
Yeah.
Like Winston Duke as the dad. Like, he's got the glasses, he's got the shorts, he's got the he reminded me of every single dad that I ever seen.
Like, behind the bow.
Yeah, he's playing the perfect role.
And I love in that driveway scene his, like, faux tough guy act where you like all right, I'm gonna deal with this, and he, like, starts to talk. He's like, okay, okay, like he like brings it down a register, and like as he says that line, like you kind of hear his confidence like trail off with every word as he's like, this isn't me. I don't know how to convince these people I'm a hard ass. Like, I love it. I love and the comedy in this movie is worth noting too, because like Get Out, you know, I love it for it, but it does that. It cuts back to Lil Rel, and it's like, okay, we're gonna come back for a funny part. It's like we're cutting back to that character. This part is the funny part. Cut back to the tense, you know, thriller part with Chris and the Armitages. Where this, it's like they kind of sprinkled in a little more subtly, where, you know, it just comes out of the plot. And Winston Duke, I mean, I would say he's definitely predominantly the comic relief of.
Yeah, but you also have Tim Heidecker, who, you know, does
love him.
This like weird like dark comedy. Like, he has this stand-up on Amazon that, like, it's so weird because it's like framed as this like stand-up comedian that is like just so awful and like breaking down on stage. It's so weird, and like you can tell like he was made for this role, just like so, especially when he is playing the doppelgänger of his character. It's so creepy. I love it. Like, he's so good in this.
I'm super fascinated by him in this movie because I think this is true for pretty much all of us, but I've been a big fan of his ever since Tim and Eric started.
They inspired us way beyond belief.
Yes.
Than we ever should imagine.
I think in the same way that Jordan Peele has become like this horror movie thriller visionary, like Tim Heidecker, Tim and Eric, and I feel like that the weird subculture and like brand of humor that they cultivated has been so influential, completely like reshape like humor online, and like, you know, I feel like they're just so influential. Like you can find their influence in just about anything now. And you know, Tim Heidecker's never really been like he's been an actor, but like you don't see him in a movie like this very often, where it's like he's not leaning into that kind of persona that you know him for, what you think of when you expect a Tim Heidecker performance. But But he's great as like just a shithead in this.
Yeah.
Oh, he's such
And then his doppelganger is just even shittier.
yes.
Like when he like acts like he's gonna like help help her up off the ground, and then he's just.
Yeah. I forgot about
like,
that entirely.
Dude, that is so good.
That killed me this time. I forgot about that completely until I watched it again.
And then when he's like taunting Winston Duke's character on the boat, like he gets on the boat and he acts like he's like frustrated because he can't find him, and he's just screaming. He's just like,
just screams like a screams like a banshee, and this just gives this like
his screams were the best screams out of this.
Yeah, and then he just like pops down and like finds him. He's like, "I knew you were here." Like, it's just so good. He can get that across with like just like screams and like, it's so good. I love.
It's crazy. Like his even just the little mannerisms, like when he hops down the stairs and he like lands crouched down. Like it's so, but it makes so much sense because I feel like so much of Tim and Eric and like what he's done is like. There is a big physical comedy aspect to it as well. Like he's so good at knowing, okay, if I look this way or I walk like this or like I raise my eyebrow in this way, like it's gonna completely sell whatever I'm supposed to be doing. Like he's got that really fine tuned down, and it comes across. He's playing this like he's basically playing a movie slasher. He's a serial killer for half the movie, and like
I do want to talk about the scene with them in that house.
Yes.
That family, because the whole movie, like leading up to this, I mean, we get the doppelganger family of the family we're following, and it's like this home invasion thriller, and it's like very just more thriller than anything. Not a lot of violence yet, just very creepy and like tense. And then we get to this scene, and it is so like violent.
Yes.
Like the violence just comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh shit. Like it was an oh shit movie when like he looks up at his daughter and then he's like, hello, because he sees the doppelganger of his daughter come up and just stabs her in the neck. And I was like, oh my God, like this is taking a turn I was not expecting.
Well, and I think that almost broke my expectations of the movie. Because I kind of thought from the moment that the doppelgangers of the original family come into the film that was where we were going to stay for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
we weren't going to leave that house, or even just when it comes to like the river, the boat. And then it cuts to the other house, and there you realize that beyond this world that he created within that small house, there is so much more of this world.
Yeah.
You almost forget that. There's got to be other people out there that are experiencing this same problem. If 4 random people just show up at the house, there's got to be more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that was one of those things where I was like, damn, I kind of wish I didn't know going into this movie that anything else would, like, because from the trailers and the marketing and stuff, like I kind of wish I didn't know that we we're going to go back to that family, because it almost feels like a reveal, right? Where it's like, okay, it feels very personal when the tethered, I should say, first show up, and they're haunting the family that the main characters of the movie. It feels very personal what's happening there. Like this is only something.
Yeah, I didn't know we were getting more tethereds.
Yeah,
because I think I only watched the teaser, and
I think that's where I came into
really
it as well.
What I do with most movies is watch the teaser and go in kind of blind.
I watched
the idea of what I want to watch, and then I like going. And so I didn't know that was coming, and I was just completely like, I have no idea where this movie is going now.
Yeah, it feels like a kind of a twist where it's like they're that the main characters they're on that boat. You think that's where they're headed. Like, oh, we hear a noise outside. You think you know where that's going, and then nope, we just cut to a wide shot. 2 tethered upstairs of the daughters, like super unceremonious, like not romanticized at all. They're just stab, like they get wiped out so fast, and it feels, and that's the part that makes me like sit up and go, whoa, what is going there? Everybody has one of these. Like, where does this end? Because I thought it was just this family who was experiencing this for some reason, but no, is it this neighborhood? Is it this city? Like, where does it end? And as it as we very slowly get to pull out, it's everywhere. Which
it's everywhere.
the scale of that I remember surprised me because Get Out is so secluded, and it is a very relatively speaking small horror story where it's just these characters in this little space, and it's about him trying to escape that space. Where this is like you get away from the horror, you get away from the killers, and it's like, no, there is no safe haven. It's the entire world. This is an apocalyptic scenario. Like seeing him go that higher in stakes in his second movie, I remember like being kind of caught off guard by that and like pretty fucking impressed. Also, shout out Bigfoot Anon, how you doing in the chat? Good to see you.
I love in the house scene with the Tim Heidecker and Elizabeth Moss family. I love the betrayal of like technology and police in one scene where she's like, call the police, and then it's just like, all right, playing fuck the police.
Yeah, which is so identifiably like a Jordan Peele joke, right?
Yeah,
like, you're like, yep, that's definitely his idea that made it in there.
Yeah.
I guess we should talk about Elizabeth Moss too. Is like,
I was not expecting her to be the wife.
Oh my god, she's so creepy. Like, it's her tethered performance is so creepy.
Yeah.
And unsettling. Like, I was scared.
And I think it's an interesting turn for her in terms of performances, because I feel like we always like the performances we always see. It's like she's on the ropes, so to speak, like Handmaid's Tale. It's like that's a character who's always at the disadvantage in the story, or like, I mean, it came out afterwards, but Invisible Man, it's like this is somebody working, somebody who's a victim and working through their trauma, and you watch something like this, and it's like, okay, first half of the film, she's like this ditzy, self-obsessed, just kind of
give me my rosé.
Yeah, just perpetually drunk. Like, her and her husband don't really have, they don't talk. Kids don't like them. Like, they just have this just dysfunctional family relationship. And then the other half of the film, we see her as the aggressor, I think, for like a first time that I can really think of. Even going back to like Mad Men, like she's always somebody she's always like the character of kind of a survivor. Whereas this, she is the monster that you must run from and survive, and she kills it. She's so creepy.
Yeah. Because when we see like Winston Duke kill off Tim Heidecker's tethered, and she's like, she pretends to cry and scream in the room, and then just starts laughing maniacally. I was just like, oh my god, this is so unhinged and scary.
Yeah, she's finding joy in every part of this.
Yeah.
Because they want it almost makes you think that the opposite of yourself also shares the opposite emotions. Like she actually did feel something for her husband dying, because clearly in real life, I don't know if those feelings would have been there. But there's also that beauty side of her where the tethered feels vain, and it's amazing to me. It's again those expectations that you have. You think that something's about to happen in this film, and then clearly it doesn't go that way because she's a psychopath.
Yeah. And the tethered, everybody has to give two performances in this, and the tethered side of it is so physical. Lupita's the only one who gets to talk, and obviously that gets baked into the plot later. Why that is. Everybody else has to look menacing and grunt and scream, and so like it's already asking something of all these actors that I imagine is so far outside of their wheelhouse or their experience, and nobody takes me out of it. It's and the kids. I was
just about to mention the kids.
Yeah, I want to shout out the kids because we've talked about it on here before. It's like child characters can really make or break a movie. It's a tall order to get a kid in there and have them give a performance that doesn't take you out of it, or that lands correctly, that that doesn't come off as obnoxious. And these kids are fantastic. They found two amazing performers in that aspect. Let's see. I know that the brother's name's Evan Alex, and who is it? Shahadi Wright Joseph is the daughter. I don't know their names off the top of my head, but I feel like I wanted to say their names at least and give them that recognition because they're so good in this movie.
Yeah, in I don't know about you guys, like in the 80s and like the classic slasher flicks, like the stalking, like slow stalking was like, they're like, this is scary because they're gonna eventually catch up to you. But like, you know, you can outrun that.
Yeah.
And in this movie, they're like, nope, the villain is gonna run very fast, and it's just so much scarier to me than like the slow stalking. Like the daughter just runs very fast, and I'm like, oh my god, this is terrifying. Like, you can't outrun her. She's like a track star.
Yeah, so fast that she takes joy in giving you a lead start, because she knows eventually your lungs are going to start to run hot, and you're going to slow down, and you're going to turn around, and she was right there waiting for it. So she'll get ahead of you even. It's like the kids are so creepy, and then the little brother, he's like crawling around like a freaking animal. He's going up trees. He's always on all fours. And they've got that cool like mirror relationship where he's always doing with the others. That's like they're the only two that have. And again, I know that was some people would be like, well, why is it like it for those two and not the other ones? It's like, I don't know. I don't know the rules of the tethered, man. I don't know.
I think it's because he was younger and hasn't learned to separate himself from his tethered.
Yeah.
So it's like just like younger, like the same goes for, you know, just everyday life. Like when you're younger, you're kind of mirroring your parents.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of doing what they do, and when you get older, you kind of cut that tether, and you start thinking for yourself, and you do things for yourself. And so it's kind of the same relationship with the tethers. You know, they're mirroring each other. They're doing what they do, and you know, everybody else is older, so they've learned to cut those ties and think for themselves.
I think that's a great theory, actually. And I think with his tethered, I mean, the young kid's name, the tether's name is Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
And with him, he feels also like the least inherently malicious of the group to me. You know, like obviously Lupita's character and Winston's character, like they're all in. And the daughter apparently was just, as the tethered says, was born a monster. So like I guess he just came out ready to kill. But like Pluto, he feels like a little more curious.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it's like the childlike curiosity.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the tragedy that's explored with the tethered too. You know, as we get to the twist and figure out what's going on there, is like there's a version of this where they don't need to be so marginalized. Like they could have, had they not been so marginalized, there's a version of this where they could have grown into fully, you know, functioning people had they known, you know, positive emotion and experience and like had an actual chance in life. It's like you see that with him. He's so young. It's like he's still, even though he's been scarred beyond recognition, and grew up in a freaking dirty basement and ate live rabbits his whole life. It's like you still see this sort of childlike curiosity where it's like it wouldn't be inconceivable that this kid could somehow like go a different way than where it's obviously too late for him now because it's tethered day. You know, it's Hands Across America that day. But you can see like how it could have gone a different way if he had some sort of compassion. Somebody had compassion for him in his life and he like had a chance, which I think is obviously speaking to sort of the core idea of the movie. Mm-hmm. But for the adults, you see it's like no, they're completely bought in at that point. Like they are enacting their big plan, and they seem to take pleasure in enacting it. Like they're enjoying what they're doing, especially the daughter. She enjoy it the most.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I'm going to delve into the kids once we bring up the big twist, because there's a lot within one scene that I go back to after watching it again, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I'll just leave it at right now that the scene where the son, Pluto, dies is, in my opinion, way more emotional than we actually are looking at it. From just watching the movie, because if you think about it, like I said, I'll wait until we get into the big spoiler part of it.
Yeah, I mean, because there you get those little pieces with her her actual character's name is Adelaide, Lupita's character, Adelaide. You get those little pieces and interesting moments of interaction whenever she's with a tethered and her family is in immediate danger. The way she interacts with some of those characters is interesting, which it basically doesn't really think anybody's watching. And I mean, even just her first encounter with Red, as the family members peel off and leave the room, I love that setup. We kind of skated over that scene, but it's so once the tethered get inside their house for the first time, and in other movies, this could not have worked because it's like, okay, the villains come in and like literally all the characters sit down and the main villain like explains, okay, this is what the movie's going to be about, and like in other movies that would have been so distracting. Again, it's that expository thing, but approached it in a way where I was like on the edge of my seat while also being so repulsed and freaked out, like truly so chilling. You really feel the terror of that family as immediately all control of the situation is ripped away from them, and they're also having this mind-shattering moment of like, this is literally us. That's us over there. How could this? And like, I love Winston. Like, Winston Duke character keeps trying to like figure out like, well, we can give you some money. Like, he keeps trying to assign some sort of rational.
And another funny line is in that scene where he's like, I'll give you the boat, whatever you want. And the daughter's like, Dad, no one wants your boat.
He's like, we could go to the ATM, and everybody's like, God, shut up. Like, it's our clones. Like, they don't want our money. This isn't a house robbery, but like, just like, he's the last one to finally like stop trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And he's like, all right.
And the way they kind of peel him off, that vocal performance from Lupita is so crazy and so scary.
Once you figure it out, you're like, oh, that makes sense, because there's even lines on the beach that kind of hint to it, where she's like, oh, I was never good at talking.
Yeah,
and he was like, oh, when you think back on it, you're just like, oh my god, right there.
I watched a little behind the scenes thing of like how did they shoot some of these scenes, right? Like it's that little special effect that you take for granted because it's so intrinsic to the movie. But you're like, man, there's a lot you've got to block and figure out how you're going to shoot and then put it together in post in a way that it looks real, where you have copies of these people running around and really close spaces and like really, where tension's really valuable. And it was like, they had a double for Lupita, and then they would switch, and they would kind of like, I guess you'd say like mocap, her face on the other, like, that whole thing. But the part I thought was really interesting was that when she's Adelaide, and so she's, reading with Red, Jordan Peele did all the back and forth. He was Red whenever she was Adelaide. And so there's this like great behind the scenes clip of like him hiding, and he's got like a microphone. He's doing the voice like pitch perfect. It's crazy. Like, they were so on the same page. I guess she came up with the voice, from what I understand. That was something she put together with a couple of dialect coaches, and she had like studied different like speech impediments, and like I forget the specific one, but this condition where your like vocal cords spasm out mid-sentence, and like based it on that, and I had to work with them and figure out too, because it's like, well, I can't just come out here and make noises all day, because then on the same day I might have to go sit in the other chair and I got to sound like a person again. So like super complicated, but I'd recommend looking at it, finding Jordan Peele reading Red's lines in the scene. It's just like they were so dialed into the same vision. I think that's so cool.
And there are like certain things I still have no idea like what they mean within the scene, like the red frisbee landing on the blue like polka dot beach towel, lands perfectly on like the blue circle. Like it's focused so highly on that, and then it's like I have no idea how to unpack that.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things like that. The game is full of, or not the game, the movie is full of it. And some of them stick out to me. Like, some are pretty clear. Like, they're the one like the big fake spider, and then like the real spider crawls out behind it. Like, little stuff like that.
And like the little boy, he's not making sand castles, he's making sand tunnels.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like,
and then there's like a huge theory with that, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into it. There's like several Goonies references, which takes place very much underground, and yeah, it's every scene and shot. He's figuring it out. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, I guess we should, as we're going through, we keep referencing it. I guess we should just dive into the big twist of it as we get into this third act, which, and I should also say, I mentioned it earlier, but this movie really is relentless from the time that the tethered show up in their driveway, going all the way through them escaping. They get on the boat, but we go to the next family's house, and it's like all the way up until where they finally sit down and like watch TV and like get the news reports and figure out what's going on. It's like there's no lapse in action. There's no time to stop and say, what's going on? They just have to keep reacting and moving and surviving and going and going and going. I think it's tough to hit a pace like that, and it is exhausting, but I think by design. As like I remember it was true the second watch. I was like, God, I'm so fucking worn out watching this. Like I'm sweating, I'm all tense and nervous, and it's like it's not every day a movie actually gets to have that effect on you, especially when you watch it a second time.
Yeah.
It'd been probably like, I guess, almost 2 years, probably more now since this movie came out, 2019, right? So
April 2019.
Yeah. So okay, so just over 2 years. It's tough to replicate that, but man, this movie had me. I was locked in, and it's great pacing, because you do slow down for that moment where it's like, okay, what are we gonna do now? I guess we'll drive back into town. But then once they drive back into town, relentless again.
Right back again. Yeah.
Yeah. So we should talk about this third act. I guess, to kind of go through the events of it. I mean, it starts off, Nick, you said you want to talk about the scene with Pluto and the fire. Tell me more about that scene, how you interpret that scene.
I feel like the rest of this review, if we don't go through and talk about what happens at the end, there's going to be... I can't really talk about it until we talk about the ending. So if you guys haven't...
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the end, the big reveal, and then we'll backtrack to the scene with Pluto.
Because the scene with Pluto, it just...
is reliant on the twist?
Well, for my perspective on it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the twist.
Well, okay, I'll just get into a short version of it right now.
Okay.
The big twist is that she switches places, her tethered switches places with her and is living her life. That's the reason why she can't talk.
Yeah,
that's the reason why when she grabs her. Yeah. Anyways, in my opinion, when I'm watching Pluto walk into the fire, she's watching what is supposed to be her son die.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it just becomes even more of an emotional scene. And to your point from earlier about, I honestly, I take the kids' personalities as, I wouldn't say that it's obviously like, it's not cross. I don't know the best way to describe it. A tethered being with a non-tethered, in my opinion, is either going to create a monster of a child or a child that's going to have more regular tendencies. And I think that is what ended up happening, where the daughter is more insane than any tether ever was, and the son has more a human side to him, because he kind of, you could tell by the reaction at the ending between the son and the mom that he's onto her, but it could just be they have more of a connection than we know kind of way, you know what I mean? And when he walks into the fire, I'm seeing it more as she's watching, and this is the second viewing.
In this kind of piggybacks on your theory, because there is a theory online that so the theory is that Jason and his tethered have also switched places.
Okay.
At some point before the movie takes place. Let me see here. The theory suggests that Jason and Pluto swapped places years earlier, which would explain why Pluto scampers on all fours now and has reverted to a proverbial state. Mm-hmm. And some of the evidence is like the werewolf mask. It kind of mirrors Thriller, which has like a heavy influence on this. Like even the ending when she smiles, it's kind of like that Thriller.
Love.
Yeah. He kind of puts the werewolf mask back on. They're kind of wearing the same mask. And then the tunnels, he's building sand tunnels.
Yeah.
So he's kind of building what he knows, which would be those tunnels. And then the closet, they talk about he has trouble focusing. So he goes into the closet, like this dark closet, and just hangs out in there. It's kind of mirrors how Adelaide, yeah, mirrors when she originally switched places. Parents didn't know what was wrong with her and had to go through therapy. She was troubled and had trouble focusing and all this stuff. And they really kind of focus on his trouble focusing, even at the beginning.
Yeah,
she kind of is keep on beat, and so there's that. And then the drawings, he's very focused on that. And then Pluto is the only member of the family, the tethered family, who does not try to murder his double. In fact, they're playing together, and they're engaging in a mirroring game. Let's see here.
I didn't even think about
they have a stronger bond, more so than Zora and Gabe, and their respective doubles. Kind of like Red and Adelaide. They have a stronger bond, kind of like Pluto and Jason. So there's so much. And then, the fire. Let's see here. Fans claim that the lower half of Pluto's face isn't just covered in burns because he likes to play with matches. Supposes that every time newly swapped Jason tried and failed to do his magic trick, holding the trick lighter right up to his face, Pluto matched the movement and suffered burns because of it.
Okay.
Which is further proof that Pluto is the original untethered son controlled by Jason.
I'd never heard or thought about that one before.
I like it.
Yeah.
Blew my mind.
Yeah. And then there's the fact that he says weird things like kiss my anus. Meaning he doesn't really understand how to say things in composite sentences. And then, he's holding the bunny at the end. He takes the bunny and holds the bunny at the end, which is all they knew down there. There's just so much. All kind of put in the chat because there's so much evidence that they're it's. But definitely check that out. Give it a read. It's really fascinating. But that makes the whole thing you were talking about even more tragic because in reality, she is watching her own son die.
And you see her have a reaction like that earlier with the daughter too, when they fling her off into the trees. She gets out of the car, and it feels like the implication to her family is I just gotta make sure we finish the job. I don't want this little demon running back to us later in the movie. But then she gets out there, and it's not to do the double tap. It's she wants to be there for this kid while she dies, and tries to quiet her down and calm her down as she laughs through the pain and her own demise. Which, and on a first watch again, I read that as this woman's a mother, and she's not a sadist. She even after all this, there's still that maternal part of her that is so disturbed by watching a child die that she feels she still has that urge and that instinct to comfort her and try to make her feel okay. But then there's once you get all of it, you're oh yeah, but she also came from the same place that this kid came from, whether she views this kid as what would be her own or understands where this kid came from and so Adelaide, she escaped, but she has to look at these people and go that could have very easily have been me if I didn't, which I think is where you really start seeing the kind of core class concept come through towards the end, where it's we're always, whether you no matter how socially conscious you might think you are, we as Americans and people living in the first world are always to some degree going to be living at the expense of somebody else. There's always somebody lower on the totem pole, and whether we mean to, whether we even can recognize it, we're exploiting them inherently. That's what I had read Jordan Peele had was really thinking about when he was when it came to the social aspect of it. He was like, I really wanted to write about like American class and privilege, and like that's what informs a lot of the ideas in the film. For Adelaide, it's like she gets out of that basement and joins the as you would say the surface world, and is able to grow into, an unsuspecting, relatively normal person. You would never guess she came from this weird sewer culture. You would never know. And then at the end of the day, in the same respect, Red, her tether, or who we know was the real Adelaide, right? Like was born on the surface, gets swapped and lives there. And look what happens. She doesn't have the opportunity. She doesn't have the compassion and the nurture and the love. And she is, this weird shadow to somebody else who gets to be happy. And look at what that conditioning did to her when she comes back up. She's this malevolent killer with a pair of scissors who wants to stab it all to death. I think at the end of the day, they're all on an even playing field, but not culturally. And that's what makes the tethered the way they are, because they have no opportunity to not be that way. That's what they're forced into. And so when she sees how they turned out, she knows like, oh yeah, I escaped all of this and I'm living in spite of it. And they never had that chance. So she must feel a ton of guilt and self-awareness when she sees what happens to those kids, and knows like it could have gone a different way for them, but it didn't, and it killed them.
Mm-hmm. And that's why when she sees people who should have been her family, her friends, technically within that world. Also, can I be that guy for a second, the worst guy? I went to look your article up as I was about to click on it, didn't realize that you shared it. And Jordan Peele on the Blu-ray commentary debunked the theory, apparently.
No! Oh, really?
Like, I literally went to look at it, and it was like, oh, shit. Click the wrong article there. But no, like, I like to believe that, though, that is true, because that blew my mind. And I honestly think that it makes more sense that way, frankly. Like, but yeah, no, the class system of it all, showing that, like, even she could grow up in that type of a situation. And it's crazy to think that Adelaide, or Red in this situation, was the wealthiest, at least in brain power, of the tethered to be able to create such a plan. And to know that it is almost even a story that no matter where you grow up, you still can be. I hate to say that a serial killer is brilliant in that aspect of things, but she does come up with that revenge story, or that revenge plot, because she does know as much as she does when it comes to being a tethered.
Yeah, she's the only one who understands the surface world,
mm-hmm.
and only one who can pull out wide enough to see the grand scheme of things, while still clearly, I mean, no way she could have truly understood what was happening. I mean, put a kid in that just crazy nightmare situation, and see what that new world does to her, like mentally and emotionally. There was mm-hmm. no chance for her to become anything else. But yeah, because she's the only one who has any sort of understanding of the world, she's able to weaponize this entire nation of basement dwellers.
Yeah.
And again, they don't get too deep into how that works. They're like, there was some government program. They figured they could make doubles of people to control people on the surface, and then it didn't really work, and they just abandoned it. But like somehow the project persists anyway. Somehow when somebody exists on the surface, they get a tether down below. Somehow they're not going to get into the science of it, because there is no science for that. But if you just let it play out, it makes for a very interesting film. And also it's basically purely allegorical. It's not meant to be taken literally. You're supposed to, and I don't think it's that hard to read into it and get. So I think anybody who's like, well, yeah, but where'd they get all those jumpsuits at? Who's feeding the rabbits? Like, no, I know, 100%. But this there's no conceivable way that the literal story that's happening would make sense in our world, but what inspires that story makes 100% sense in your world. You're just choosing to see it in a way where you can pick it apart and not take it seriously. But I think it's a very smart concept, and
well, and I think that like there's a lab subject aspect to the science of how the rabbits obviously are there. Is you're feeding a bunch of people that you don't really clearly care about. What are you going to do? You're going to feed them with the animal that reproduces the most as quickly as possible.
Right.
And let's get into the theory. And here's my theory of it all: is that that was actually the lab suits of every single lab person down there. Is the red suits? That's why they have them all. I'm just trying to add to that nonsense of there needs to be something. But at the same time, that could have been what they saw. And that was the only type of clothing that they saw was these lab suits. So they replicated it over and over and over and over again. But I really was just trying to get to the fact that, like, the rabbits really mean something, is that there's always going to be more every single time. There's always an extra rabbit. There's always an extra person, as in the tethereds. But when I saw that was the source of food for them, I just thought that was brilliant, because clearly that's going to be how they make as much food as they possibly can, is just more rabbits every single day.
Yeah,
and the reveal also of like how their lives work and the functionality of that, like the cut back and forth is so strange. Of like carnival up there, they cut back down there, and they're all like running in circles around the room. And it's like wow, to even show that is a risk because it feels so silly. But it's like this is a joyless, miserable experience that they are having at all time, like having no control and no understanding what's going on, that suddenly you think, well, it's time for me to just start convulsing and jumping around and
Yahya Abdul Mateen, his movements, like his tethered movements, are so creepy.
He's barely, like, I feel like he's become such a, and just the 2 short years since this came out, like he's become a huge name. I kind of forgot he was in this, and I was like, oh shit, he's a great actor. I mean, obviously, we can't wait to see him in Candyman, whatever that'll be. But just a little bit they give him down there, because you don't really get much. You almost don't even see his face on the surface, but the little bit that you get with him down there, he's great. I wonder if those parts were fun to film for the extras, right? Where it's like, just go fucking nuts, like, I don't know, just roll around on the floor, get nuts, pretend you're on a roller coaster, but there is no roller coaster. Like, just pretend like as if you're a 5-year-old. Just start pretending you're on a roller coaster. It looks so crazy down there. I love that also their entire plan is basically informed by a T-shirt Adelaide was wearing when she got down there. The Hands Across America, which even that, it's like he even thinks of that, which is like this, failed social campaign of the 80s to combat homelessness, and poverty. And I was reading a little bit about it, and it was just such like, it's such a, in the way that like Get Out was about these, the white liberalism thing. It's like, it's that thing you see now where it's like, look how much we care, we're spreading awareness, but at the end of the day really is, I think it was something like that cost them like $15 million to fund it, and then they raised $15 million. So it was like a total wash, the
whole movie, I mean, you could say it's just like about classism and like the class inequality, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah, because as far as Adelaide knows, the real Adelaide, or Red, I guess just for convenience say Red. As far as she knows, it was like that Hands Across America did change the world. She never got to see how that played out. She went down there with that T-shirt on.
That's true.
And she's like, we're going to go up there and we're going to join hands, and these motherfuckers are going to know what we're talking about.
Well,
and it's like,
in her regard, Hands Across America did change the world.
Yeah.
Like, their world, but I don't know.
they rose up and made it happen. And also I love the weird particularness of it, where it's like they get up there and it feels like their only goal is to find their double, kill them, and like that's when you get in the line. Like it's not just mayhem. Let's get out there and start taking people down. It's like, no, you got to go up there, find the other one, get rid of them, and then come hold my hand and wait till we're done. Like, we're gonna get every single one of them. You just got to wait it out once you're done. And not to get ahead of myself, because there's one more thing I want to talk about in this underneath segment, but like the reveal at the end of all of them that's terrific.
One of my favorite shots.
Drone shot. It is so outrageous, right? Where it's like they're just stretching across the mountains. It's like, okay, we got this very tiny slice of this, but this movie is happening everywhere, and we're not winning. We're not. We probably aren't going to figure this out.
Because there's like thousands of them at this point just linked. And so, there's so many dead bodies just lying around.
And there is, when they get back up there, it's like every shot, once it rolls over in the morning and they're running around the pier again, it's like every shot has like 6 or 7 just random dead bodies all in the background at all times. It's like, and there's nobody else too. That's what's kind of creepy about it. It's like they get there and there's nobody else running around like asking for help. It's like they were on their little island. Well, the entire world ended by the time they got back. Like everybody's already been killed and replaced. But I want to talk about the final fight.
Yes.
Between Adelaide and Red, because I love this scene.
Choreographed so well.
Such a cool way to stage it and shoot it. Obviously, again, the I Got 5 on It remix comes back, which it just it's so funny because it's like feels like this big needle drop in the same way that like Good Vibrations is such a good pick in that earlier scene.
Yes. Yeah. I completely forgot.
Great pick. But this, it's like it's a needle drop of a remix of a song you made just for the trailer, but it was so impactful that I go, oh, fuck yeah, this song's going to play during this. It's so good. Because obviously the dance motif with Adelaide is all through it. And it's like we've seen her get through the whole film and be so clever. And she takes that fire poker a long way through. She's holding that thing the whole movie, and she gets, she's dangerous. And when left to her own devices, she can take these tethered out. And despite all of life's experiences, she still is like very poorly equipped to do anything about Red, who so effortlessly just dodges everything she throws at it. So it's so cool. And they don't really cut around it in a crazy way. They're just like, let's just keep these shots wide and just show you that like a dancer just getting through her moves. I love it. I love it.
It felt like one of the most well choreographed fights that I have ever seen.
Oh, absolutely.
You have, and they hint at it that she dances. She has the ballet recital that was important to the plot because it really was that moment that they really all started to see her as almost an important figure, because everybody's watching her do this dance recital from down below. And you could tell within the sequence of the flashback that was where she really started to realize her plan. So for the fight to have been this almost ballet choreographed mashup was just incredible.
It's such a great culmination of everything that you've been given in the film and shown so far. And because, it's funny because like Adelaide, as we know, Adelaide, who we know is tethered, she's the one who has those dance lessons and gets to live that life, but it's like she's the one who's outclassed in every move by Red at the end. Again, it's that conditioning thing. That at the end of the day, her Adelaide's opportunity and her privilege didn't make her better than Red when it came down to it. Like she does eventually defeat her, but it's very close. I just love like she keeps going in for every time she thinks she's gonna get it. Red just moves so effortlessly and just slices with the scissors like every time, to the point where Adelaide gets so aggravated. She's not even putting up a good effort. She's just screaming and like running and hitting the wall and just in disbelief. Like, how can I hit this freaking weirdo? How can I not pull this? I've killed all of them. Like, I made it this far, and I can't even land a hit on my doppelganger here. It's just like Red's thought about this moment her entire life.
Yeah.
Everything she's done and accomplished has all been leading to this. And Adelaide still does ultimately win, but very narrowly.
Mm-hmm.
Put that damn fire poker through her. She carries that thing all the way from getting off the table to the very end of the movie. Like, doesn't upgrade at any point. Just in handcuffs, holding a fire poker the whole movie.
Which is smart, because if I had a weapon and like there was like I would just keep that weapon.
Yeah. Never let it go.
Yeah.
If it's been working, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, never upgrades. Although her daughter gets great murder in with the golf club.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, the middle scene is so good. So many good kills in that scene. But yeah, she finally kills Red. That's when we get the big reveal of the swap, and we see Adelaide give into her own inhibitions that I guess are still under there somewhere. This sort of primal rage that she has, that we see all the tethered have. She kind of lets into it, and her son sees it. And I don't think I ever would want a sequel to this, but you have so many questions coming out of it. What the rest of those characters' lives are going to be like?
Yeah. That's kind of why I did want to pose that question, because it's like there's something there that this wasn't only happening to them. What families did survive? What people still are around after this? Because you think about it and I still haven't seen the sequel, but I've seen the trailer. But like with A Quiet Place 2, it's like you're exploring more of this world afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't think that we need the movie, but like I just think that like
when you see Quiet Place 2 or when you see A Quiet Place, you're like, okay, that's a good like sci-fi horror, a great sci-fi horror movie. Like, doesn't really need a sequel, but then you see the sequel and you're like, holy shit, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, fantastic. And like there truly was more story to be explored in a meaningful way. I feel like the same could be said for Us.
Yes,
doesn't really need a sequel, but I'm sure there is a meaningful story that could be explored that could honor the first one, as well as just being a good movie on its own. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Us lends to that, and it would be so cool to see an Us 2.
And I'm curious if we will ever see a Jordan Peele sequel, is the thing. I mean, obviously he's producing Candyman, which could spawn millions of sequels after that. But I'm saying from a standpoint of his written and directed films, will we ever see a sequel? Because Get Out doesn't need a sequel. Us doesn't need a sequel. He is incredibly good at grounded storytelling. But there's going to be that film that's just going to, out of nowhere, it's like Us 2 or whatever. I don't know how you title that film. There's so many different ways to do it. But it's like them, they, us. It's just like there's so many different ways that you could title that film. But it's like, will we ever see a Jordan Peele sequel is the question. And I don't think that we need one.
I don't think we need one. I don't think we'll ever see a sequel to one of his movies.
Yeah, I mean, if he ever, came out and said, I've got an idea worth doing, I would completely say, go do that, because it's kind of the same thing with, like you mentioned, Quiet Place and Krasinski. It was like, because I think by his own admission, he was like, that was a standalone film. It was its own idea.
Yeah.
I didn't go into it looking for a series, but then I had an idea that seemed worth doing. So it was like, I'm thinking like, oh, I will trust, if you're the original visionary behind the thing and you think, oh, there is a reason to come back there, I'm going to trust that instinct. Mm-hmm. But for me, I certainly don't need it as it is now. I think great horror stories also always kind of end with a big question like that. Mm-hmm. Get Out's kind of the same way, where it's like, okay, he escaped and it's resolved, but it's like, man, what's the rest of that guy's life look like? It's not going to be. He's not going to be easy or normal, and even more so here, where the scale is so big, it's affecting the entire world. It's like, there's the rest of their lives are going to be defined by whatever is happening that day. They're always going to have to be dealing with this somehow. And then the personal level of like, the son's basically figured it out all the ways. And the question is like, what is he going to choose to do with that information? He puts the mask back on, so maybe the implication is like, well, he's just going to have to live with that. He's chosen to deal with it himself rather than, introduced that to his father and his sister.
Well, I was gonna say it's still his mom in that regard. Like,
right? Yeah.
We're not looking at this like, oh, she swapped like, 3 years ago. No, that is his mom. So it's not like it's like it is a big secret to hold, but like it's still his family, and like the idea is I just want to know what's going on in the rest of the world and what's going on in the rest of the country. Like, what are we doing in us at that moment? Like, where are our tethers? Are we doing this show right now? Right behind
they're just inherently even weirder.
They're sitting there on their laptop screens going, ugh!
Which is not too far off of what we do.
No.
They're probably better reviewed. They probably got more cuties on that side.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it till now, but I guess in this world and like in this setup and what they're doing, if you manage to kill your tethered, I guess you're just you're good, right? Because they're all, again, it's not like mayhem and take over the world. It's like they're there to get theirs, get their guy, and then go stand in line. So if you take out your tethered,
unless you get in the way of what they're doing, they're not going to come after you unless it's your own tethered.
Right. They're there to replace. So if there's nobody around who wants to replace you, then I guess you're good. So I mean that also makes it fascinating. Is like is will they integrate into, like, are they going to be the benchmark that defines society? And again, that gets into the cultural difference and class issues of the film. It's like what happens when you minimize the privilege and put everybody on an even playing field. It's an entirely different world, and it's kind of what it is at the end. It's like starting over. It's who's left, and there is no surface and basement anymore. It's like we're all on the same playing field. So what's that going to look like? And like that's the big question mark they leave you on. And I don't know if he'd ever revisit it, but if he thought there was a reason to, then I would say sign me up. I would love to see what else you think is worth visiting in this world. But with him, I love the ideas that he has, and I'm always like excited to see him move on to the next idea.
His next movie is shaping up to be incredible. I mean, who do we got?
Lewis coming back, I think.
Yeah, Klua. Who else?
Jesse Plemons, is he?
Yeah, I think so. Plemons. That I can't wait to see what he wrote for Jesse Plemons.
Yeah. He feels like he'd fit very well in Get Out. Like either way, or as Tim Heidecker's character.
Yeah, or this I was gonna say Jesse Plemons.
Stephen Yeun,
tethered.
Yeah.
Stephen Yeun is in it.
Keke Palmer's the villain of it. I know that.
Yeah, Keke Palmer. So there's a lot of people. It definitely sounds very interesting. So it's going to be, who knows what he's doing, but it's going to be incredible. Yeah, Jesse Plemons, Kluya, Keke Palmer, and Stephen Yeun.
Well, and it's like when the first trailer, wasn't it like the original marketing for Us was really bizarre, wasn't it? Like, wasn't it just people? Wasn't it just the people in like the tracksuits were just appearing out of nowhere, or am I thinking of something else?
I can't remember.
Oh, sorry. Clemens is not in it and was replaced by Stephen Yeun.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
I think it's probably because he took that job on the Scorsese film, maybe. But
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't wait to see that, and I can't wait to learn, what was the idea behind it, because that's like I said, his process is so fascinating to me to find that interesting, social observation, and then like work outwards and find where can I find the real story elements in the horror of it. How can I dial that in? I think he's so good at that, and so uniquely good at that. And I hope he continues. I mean, it's funny because now we almost have to talk about the future of his career, because we've now covered his entire filmography on Reely Scared in just the last like 2 months or so. So it's like we haven't even really seen his run yet. But I hope there's always an avenue for him to continue doing these original films.
I mean, when after Get Out came out and he signed a first look deal with Universal, he said he had like 10 of these like social concept horror movies written. So he at least has like 7 more in the bag that he has planned to do.
And I would love to see that continue, because obviously he's a man of like deep influence. You know, it comes across in his work. I want to see him keep making original stuff, because I never want to see him fall into like become one of these adaptations. You know, some filmmakers are good at that. I want to see him continue the run of original film, like, because he's, you know, obviously he's a producer on the Candyman thing. It looks great. You know, he's going to be doing a People on the Stairs remake, I think. Which, like, okay, I wonder what can he bring to that he's not doing in Us, because I feel like they're kind of living in the same metaphors. Like, what would that look like? But I feel like when he greenlights those things and produces them, Lovecraft Country, right? He's a producer on that. He's like creating opportunities for other filmmakers that they maybe wouldn't have if he didn't have this name attached to it. It's like Nia DaCosta on Candyman, Misha Green on Lovecraft Country. It's like those are, you know, blossoming visions and careers. And so I love, not only is he making his own stuff, but he's creating these new opportunities for other filmmakers and visionaries to get their chance to get noticed too. And I hope that's the journey he kind of continues, because I really don't want to see him have to figure out how to adapt something when he could just come up with these super compelling ideas in his own wheelhouse. So
and he does a great job at like launching these, like giving these people an opportunity to launch their careers, because I mean Misha Green is doing Tomb Raider too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's incredible. Like, gave her like the opportunity to spearhead Lovecraft Country, and then now she's doing this huge sequel. Right.
And I love that from him. I think he's just a pure force for originality and good filmmaking. And
he could have done Lovecraft Country. He could have done Candyman. But he was like, no, give other filmmakers the chance to do this, and I'll do my own thing. And that's very admirable.
Because that's it. After Get Out, he had the world in front of him. Everybody was going, oh, shit, you made this? Like, we had no idea. And now it's like, He's the guy who's getting the call every day. Like, what else do you want to make? And I'm sure that was the pitch with like something like Candyman, like direct Candyman. It seems like such a tee up. And he goes, no, I'm not going to do it, but I know somebody who'd be really good at it.
Give people,
and so I hope that continues. I think it's really cool to see someone like really see the beginning of what's going to be such a long, illustrious, and compelling career. Once in a while I have that with, whether it's an actor or a director or writer. It's like, I'm going to be watching this dude's movies for the rest of my life, and it's super exciting. You know, he's going to have a huge long run, and I can't wait to see as it gets riskier and riskier. I can't wait to see what else he comes up with. So I love this movie.
Same here.
Love Jordan Peele. I'm excited we got to talk about it. Is there anything that we didn't hit on this film that we think that we need to go back and talk about?
I don't think so.
I think, in whatever order that we covered it, we definitely covered everything.
That's the Really Scared way. We throw it in the air and we pick it up one piece at a time. No, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you, Nick, for bringing Us to us.
Yes, thank you.
I was thrilled when I saw Matt do it. I'm like, give the other co-founder the other Jordan Peele. We cover all the Jordan Peele stuff.
Yeah.
I love Us very much. I love Us. Just everybody.
Yeah, I love Us.
I love Us very much. And thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to come on here and talk with my Murmur Boys again.
Always a pleasure, man. I love that we got to bring the Murmur Boys together on screen.
Absolutely.
For the first time like this. I'm really scared. It's been a pleasure. And of course, it goes without saying, you're always welcome back, but you know that. It's your channel. You're welcome back. Yeah, right. Come on. But no, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. It being your channel, I think people know by now, but it's worth asking. Nick Muhlbach, where can all the ghouls and goblins find you?
On Twitter, because this entire channel is the only reason why I have a Twitter at this point. At Nick Muhl Film, and then Muhlbach Cinema on Instagram, where you can see all kinds of fun stuff. And I probably won't accept your friend requests on Facebook, but thank you very much.
It's an exclusive club. Not everybody gets to be in it. No
That's
big
right.
deal. Yeah, this one's been a lot of fun. Got a lot of good things on the channel coming up, stuff to look forward to in the next week or so. 1 week, we're going to have Saber Reels this Saturday. Love what Toby and Matt have been doing on that show every single Saturday night. Tune in for our Star Wars show, Saber Reels. On Sunday, big Real Talk coming in. Excited about this one. Actor and comedian Jay Washington will be joining us on this week's Sunday Real Talk. Can't wait to listen in and watch that and hear that conversation. Jay is a super funny guy, super talented guy, and one hell of a personality. So that's going to be a great episode of Real Talk. And then the following, well, I should say next week for Really Scared, we also had a little bit of a schedule update, move some things around. Next week, we will be talking still to the tyrant Ty Lieberman about A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Wes Craven classic. Super excited for that. And the following week, here's where things get interesting and different. We'll be joined by the outlaw John Roca himself. Talk about David Cronenberg's The Fly. I'm really excited to have John joining us. We've been trying to get that to happen for a little bit, and it's going to be one hell of an episode. It's going to be so fun. Love that movie, and Roca's an awesome guy. And then 24th again, we still have Sinister with Paige Farrow. We're finally going to talk to Paige again, have her back on the show to talk about one of the scariest movies ever made, Sinister.
Scientifically, the scariest movie ever made.
Scientifically proven. That one's going to be a lot of fun.
Science is very sound.
And lastly, I know we get to broadcast to a lot of different people all around the world these days, which is super cool and awesome. If you're from the Northeast Ohio area, as we are, got a cool opportunity coming up. It is a Special Wish Bob Ross event. It is No Happy Little Accident. On June 26th, a Special Wish Cleveland is hosting the Bob Ross Experience, a paint night fundraiser with 100% of the proceeds going to a Special Wish Foundation Cleveland chapter, which is a nonprofit that grants wishes for children from birth up to 20 years of age with life-threatening illnesses. Tickets to the Bob Ross Experience taking place from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. will be $40 plus a handling fee. Price includes small appetizers available from 5 to 6, followed by a 2-hour class taught by a Bob Ross certified artist. Oh my gosh. The price also includes, he certified himself? That's nuts. The price also includes paint supplies, a canvas, and perhaps most importantly, a Bob Ross wig to rock throughout the event. The event will be held at the Winking Lizard Event Center. If you aren't local and would like to support, please feel free to donate at a specialwishcleveland.org. So if you want to have a super hot WAT Boy summer, do something fun out here in the Northeast Ohio area, check it out. The Special Wish Cleveland Bob Ross Experience. It's going to a great cause. It's been a great episode. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And Wrestle Reel tomorrow.
Wrestle Reel tomorrow? What are you talking about, Nick?
Dude, the whole landscape of the WWE has exploded, and Chris Anthony Lopez and I are going to go off tomorrow. Also be showing off some new wrestling pop figures. And hey, listen, without a doubt, one of the exciting things that we will be doing on this channel, and this big thank you to everybody.
Yes, sir.
We have officially hit 250 subscribers, and I am I can speak for everybody here, even though this isn't even my show, saying that this is such a milestone, and being able to do these things with these guys and gals on these channels is absolutely incredible. We get to meet a million different people, and we get to do a lot of fun different things. We will be doing a live stream the 12th at night, and we will be having special guests and big announcements coming your way. So make sure that you join us there.
Well said, my man. Once again, Nick, thank you for joining us, Ghouls and Goblins. Thanks for tuning in, whether live or after the fact. We love you. We appreciate you. Can't wait to see you next week, along with Ty Lieberman for A Nightmare on Elm Street. Until then, stay spooky.